What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men, but now we are going to pick up with some good old Excalibur once again. Now, I know you guys out there do not truly like Excalibur, but hey, at this point right here, for me, is when Excalibur is officially part of the X world. And let me explain. You see, in my last videos, I have been saying that when it came to Excalibur, when it was created by Chris Claremont and also Alan Davis, Excalibur was on its own. You see, you had all these different X books, but Excalibur hardly ever crossed over with the other X titles like the X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, New Mutants, X-Factor, X-Force. The list goes on and on. Now, occasionally, you will have those other teams appear in Excalibur, but for like one or two issues, and they're gone. And honestly, it was never for a big, huge story arc. It was always for a smaller story arc. Well, by this point right now, for Marvel 1990s, it's like, hey, you know what? All the X titles have to be working together, including Excalibur. Bring that book over so that we can now begin to see Excalibur really officially crossing over with the other X titles out there. And so when Alan Davis left, they begun the work of including Excalibur in the X world with this story arc right here that features the Starjammers as well. Now, the Starjammers, for me personally, are a really cool group. You see, the leader of the actual group is a character known as Corsair. Now, Corsair is the father to Cyclops and Havoc and also Gabriel, but we have not reached a point where we can sit down and begin to talk about Gabriel. But for Corsair, he is the actual leader of the Starjammers group. Now, the Starjammers, they play different roles when it comes to the cosmic world of Marvel Comics. And what I mean by that is, well, sometimes they're just pirates, and sometimes they're bounty hunters. Now, at this point in our coverage over the X-Men, they kind of work for the Shi'ar Empire as bounty hunters. And really, they're going to play that role really well when it comes to one of the members of Excalibur that they have to arrest and bring back over to the Shi'ar Empire. Because apparently on the Excalibur team, there is a killer. Somebody who had killed off a lot of people, who had done something really horrible. And so they have to pay for the crimes that they had committed. Now, something else I do want to mention as we go into today's video, that apparently some things happened between our last video and this video. As a matter of fact, the opening pages of Excalibur issue number 68, it actually tells us that there were some things that happened they did not put in the actual book. Like, for example, at the end of our last video, we saw our heroes being able to save the day in the Days of Future Past timeline. But now it was time for them to go back to the main Marvel Universe timeline. Well, apparently on their way back, they lost Captain Britain, and we have no idea where in the world he could possibly be yet. And so as we dive into today's video, we actually see Megan being completely sad because the man she loved is now lost in time forever. We also see that Micromax had actually joined Excalibur. Now, Micromax is a mutant as well. Again, kind of building up the point where we're going to see Excalibur fall in line with the other X titles. But for Micromax, he was part of a government branch in Great Britain, but that branch closed down a while back, and it kind of gave him room to actually join this team right here. Now, something else I do want to mention is that the whole idea of Illyana dying. Now, Illyana is actually the little sister to Colossus. Now, for Illyana, she had a very difficult time in X-Men comics. She first appeared as a young little girl. She was then pulled to limbo. When she came back to the main Marvel Universe, she was a teenager. And then thanks to X-Men Inferno, well, she was turned back into a child again. And also been living with her parents back in Russia. Well, with Kitty Pryde here, we get confirmation that apparently she is on the verge of dying. Now, technically, we're not told what is killing Illyana, but we're going to find out in our next video when we jump back over to the X-Men book for Colossus and the Gold Team. But yes, now we're being told by Kitty Pryde that Illyana is on the verge of death possibly. Now, something else we do have to talk about is that on the team, you had some couples on the team. Like, for example, you had Megan and Captain Britain. You also had Nightcrawler and Cerise. Now, Cerise is an alien that we're still technically learning about, but over time, with her being on Excalibur, her and Nightcrawler were actually able to build a relationship with one another. And so with Nightcrawler, he's very upset because, well, they lost Captain Britain traveling back in time to the main Marvel universe. And so because of that loss, Nightcrawler is very cold to the rest of his team. Matter of fact, he wants to be left alone from everybody, including Cerise. And for Cerise, she's still trying to learn the actual culture of the Earth. And so to see Nightcrawler act so cold to her, she does not fully understand why he's acting like that. But while you have Kai Lun and also Micromax, training while the rest of the team kind of doing their own thing, out of nowhere, you have Kai Lun realize that they're being watched. They're being surrounded. And then out of nowhere, you had the Starjammers there. Now, as soon as they arrive, they begin to fight against Kai Lun and Micromax. Now, you have Rachel Summers being able to tell the rest of the team that, hey, we need all hands on deck because, well, we're being attacked by the Starjammers. Now, for the Starjammers, they tell our heroes that we are here for a criminal. We are here for a space criminal. Now, for our heroes, they automatically think it's the Phoenix because for the Phoenix, there has been a lot of problems in previous story arcs thanks to the Phoenix and also the Shi'ar Empire. So for them to be here saying like, hey, we're here to arrest a criminal for the Shi'ar Empire, our heroes are like, oh, it's the Phoenix. Okay, guys, all hands on deck. We got to protect the Phoenix. But then after a few pages, they were like, hey, we're not here for the Phoenix. We're here for somebody else. And for Nightcrawler, he's kind of like, wait a second. There's only two people on the team who are technically aliens at the moment. The Phoenix, which right now, Rachel Summers, the host for the Phoenix, and then also Cerise, his current girlfriend. And that is when she walks out and say, yeah, they're here for me because I did commit crimes in the past. Now, for Nightcrawler, at first, he cannot believe what he is hearing. They're telling him like, hey, your girlfriend here, she's a war criminal. She is a murderer. Like, she did a lot of bad things for the Shi'ar Empire. Like, she got to go to jail, my dude. And so for Nightcrawler, he can't believe what he is hearing, but you have her tell him like, no, everything they are saying is completely true. And so you did have the Starjammers begin the process of teleporting back to their ship by using a Stargate. And so you have some members of the team being really surprised that Nightcrawler is not even trying to stop the Starjammers to get more confirmation of the idea that Cerise is actually a criminal. And so they teleport away with her. But then we learned that Rachel Summers was able to use her powers as a way to keep the Stargate open, to allow our heroes to also travel through the Stargate to follow the Starjammers, to hopefully see that, hey, is it true that Cerise is actually a war criminal? And so for our heroes, they go through the actual gate. Now, everyone does not go through the actual gate. Kitty Pryde and also Ferran, they stay behind. And the reason why, because somebody got to watch Megan. Because ever since Captain Britain was lost in time, Megan's been in this phase where she is unable to move or talk to anybody at all because how much she truly misses Captain Britain. But the rest of the team, they go through the Stargate to see if it's true that Cerise is a war criminal. Now, the opening pages for Excalibur issue number 69 kind of gives us some information that explains what happened to Cerise that led her to become an actual war criminal. You see, we learned that she was part of a crew of people who worked for the Shi'ar Empire who would go to different planets across the universe. Now, real quick, when it comes to the Shi'ar Empire, they're really known for being a mixture of different races across the universe under one banner. And so sometimes they would go to different planets to convert those planets into the Shi'ar Empire. And so sometimes those planets will join very easily, and sometimes those worlds will try to fight back because they don't want to be part of the Shi'ar Empire. And so in the opening pages for Excalibur issue number 69, we see that this world did not really want to be part of the Shi'ar Empire. They tried to fight back, but it was a complete slaughter. Like the entire race was almost completely wiped out, except for maybe like a few of them. And for Sarai, what she saw, she was truly broken. She hated what she saw, and she realized she had to change things around. But when we transition back over to the present day, we actually pick up with Sarai, and we see that she's now being transported over to an actual prison, better known as the Crag. But either way, it does seem like she is going to be locked up with the crimes that she had committed. Now, for Excalibur, they have split up into two groups. The first group being Nightcrawler and also Micromax. Now, those two characters, they have snuck onto the ship of the Starjammers. Now, before they get caught by Corsair, we actually see Corsair having a conversation with, well, Illiandra. Now, when it comes to their conversation, it's really more about the idea of what did Sarai actually do to become a war criminal? Because for Corsair, he kind of feels like there's something going on behind the scenes. He wants to know the complete story about Sarai. But you have Illiandra tell him like, no, you're not getting that story. Matter of fact, you do not even deserve to hear the story. And so she kind of hangs the call up. Now, after she does that, you did have Corsair show that he knew that Nightcrawler and also Micromax had snuck onto his ship. But for Corsair, he's kind of like, listen, Nightcrawler, I need your help because I want to figure out what exactly went down when it comes to Sarai. Now, back down on Earth, remember that Kitty Pryde and also Ferran has stayed by to kind of make sure everything is okay with Megan. But the problem for Kitty Pryde is that she's kind of like, listen, I get it that you are lost right now because you lost your loved one. But to go to a point where you're not even moving, you're not even talking to anybody at all because of one man being gone is kind of wild and crazy. And so for Kitty Pryde being also very young, she loses her patience very quickly. Now, you do have Ferran trying to cheer her up, but also he realized that maybe, just maybe, there is a way to cheer up Megan by finding Captain Britain. Now, like I said a moment ago, that for Excalibur, they have split up into two groups. The first being, well, Nightcrawler and Micromax, but now the second group would be Rachel Summers and also Kai Lund. Now, they're trying their best to actually sneak their way into the prison that Sarai was just put in. The only problem is that they need papers to actually get in. And for Rachel, because she watched way too many movies, she believed that she could use her powers to trick the mind of the guard to allow her and Kai Lund in. The only problem is that this man was easily protected from her psychic attack. And so, unfortunately, it leads into a battle, especially because, well, they see her outfit, the symbol of the Phoenix. Because like I said a while ago, when it comes to the Shi'ar Empire, they had a few run-ins with the actual Phoenix being. And so they also had a few run-ins with the last host of the Phoenix, and that would be Jean Grey. And so seeing the symbol of the Phoenix kind of bad for business. Now, you do have somebody being able to realize that even though Rachel is technically the host of the Phoenix, she's not the Phoenix in the past, meaning Jean Grey. So you have all the guards there at the prison to stop attacking her. But after the battle, you didn't have the rest of Excalibur and the Starjammers being able to regroup. And this begins the process of our heroes trying to figure out what exactly went down when it came to Sarai in the past. Now, we do get a small glimpse into the actual prison better known as Crag, where we do pick up with Sarai being able to make a friend with a character known as Cyan or Cyan. Now, once they're able to become friends, you do have this random lizard-looking prisoner begin to try to attack both Sarai and Cyan. Now, for Sarai, she is a great protector, and she's able to protect her new friend that she made in prison. But it kind of shows that how rough this prison can truly be in a matter of moments. Now, before we see our heroes being able to go inside Crag, we did see Corsair asked the guard to pull up the evidence that proves that Sarai is actually a war criminal. Now, the guard was able to pull up a video. Now, this video is basically her confession. It's her saying, like, hey, listen, I'm going to kill off my entire crew of people that I have been working with because this crew went to a nearby planet and killed every single person in that world because they did not want to be part of the Shi'ar Empire. And I hated the idea that an entire planet of innocent people were just killed off like that. And so I'm going to kill off my entire crew to make sure this crew cannot do any harm to any other worlds across the universe. And so with that video, it's kind of like, yeah, she confessed it's her crime she committed. But the last page of this chapter, we actually see that, well, somebody is watching over Sarai and the friends she made in the actual prison. Somebody who was actually sent to the prison to make sure Sarai pays for her crimes with her blood. And so then we get into Excalibur issue number 70. Now, with this issue alone, we actually pick up with a character known as Fang. Now, Fang was actually sent into the prison to kill off Sarai for what she had done in the past. And so, for Fang, she's all like, this is the perfect time to finish my mission. I see Sarai, and I also see that she had made a friend. And that friend has to die because, well, she's a friend of Sarai. And so their battle does last for the first few opening pages of this chapter. But you have Sarai realize that the only way to make sure to protect her and also her friend is to go ahead and kill off Fang. And so at the end of their battle, Sarai actually does kill off Fang just like that. The only problem is, after she had killed off Fang, you had Excalibur and also the Starjammers arrive in the prison. And so the only thing they saw was Sarai killing off Fang, not really knowing why she had killed her off for. And so now it's kind of like our heroes are basically judging Sarai for her character. Now we get into what I call the weird part of this story arc, where we actually pick up with, well, Kitty Pryde and also Megan. Now remember, Kitty Pryde was supposed to watch Megan while the rest of the team's away right now on a different planet. But you actually have Kitty Pryde deciding that she is going to leave Excalibur for the time being. And the reason why, because Ileana, her old best friend, is possibly dying from a virus. Now, like I said earlier, we're going to learn more about this virus down the road in our coverage over the X-Men. But either way, we do learn that, well, Ileana is, well, dying. Now, before you have Kitty Pryde leave, you did have Captain Britain actually arrive. The only problem is, though, this is not Captain Britain. It is actually a spell being used by Ferran because, again, he overheard that most likely the only way to help out Megan is if Captain Britain was actually there. And so he was hoping to use a spell to kind of show her a fake image of Captain Britain to break out of her spell. The problem is, well, his spell broke apart. And when he looks into her eyes, he falls in some kind of trance like she did. And so now you have two characters who are just basically stuck in this trance of not being able to move and feeling completely sad. But for Kitty Pryde, she still leaves because her best friend Liana is on the verge of death. Now, I want to get back over to Excalibur, who is currently judging, Sarai for what she had done, because you have Sarai walk over to Nightcrawler, but she can tell that this man is judging her for the idea that she killed off Fang, even though she killed off Fang in self-defense. Now, for the Starjammers like Corsair, he understands why Sarai actually did it for, because, well, she is a warrior, she is a soldier, but also the idea that sometimes you cannot always end a battle with both sides living. Sometimes you have to kill off the other person so you are able to actually survive. But for Nightcrawler and the X-Men and all the X-Team besides X-Force, they believe in the idea of all lives deserve a chance to continue their lives. The idea of killing people off is completely wrong. But then you have our heroes be confronted by Ileandra. Now, for Lilandra, she does actually appear through the mind of the friend that Sorais had made in prison. Now, for Lilandra, it's really more explaining why Sorais has to pay for the crimes that she had actually committed. And so you have Lilandra show every single hero in that prison what happened when it came to Sorais, what made her a war criminal. Now, like I said earlier, her crew decided that they had to go to different planets and convince those people to actually join the Shi'ar Empire. Now, sometimes those people, they would join freely, and sometimes you had to force them to actually join. And so for Sorais, she hated the idea that innocent people were being killed off. And so what she had actually done was she had programmed the ship to fly through a nearby sun. And by the time the other members of her crew would be able to actually change things, it would be too late. The ship would crash in the sun, killing every single person in that actual ship. But she'll be able to escape by using an escape pod. And once she had used that escape pod, it led her to Earth at that moment where she had joined Excalibur. And so now for Nightcrawler and the rest of Excalibur, they had officially learned what went down when it came to Sorais and her crew, what made her a war criminal. Now, Lilandra, she does understand what Sorais did. But the problem is, though, is like, Sorais, you're not a judge. You don't have the right to actually go out of your way to judge somebody and actually kill them for what they have done. That is up to the higher ranking people in the actual empire. And so for Lilandra, she does tell Nightcrawler, Excalibur, and also Sorais that basically Sorais will no longer be in that prison, or she will no longer be killed off for the crimes that she had actually committed. Instead, she'll now be part of the inner circle. She will always be by the side of Lilandra the entire time, kind of like Lilandra's protector. Now, the problem is that for Sorais, that means she could never go back to Earth to be with Nightcrawler. That means that this could be the last time they may see one another ever again. And so you have Corsair and the Starjammers begin to transport Sorais to her new job, her new role in the actual royal palace. And Nightcrawler and the rest of Excalibur, they have to go back to, well, Earth, and now they have lost another team member, not knowing that they have lost Kitty Pryde as well. Now, this actually leads into fatal attractions for the X-Men, for Excalibur. But before we are able to actually jump into that crossover, well, we still have some other X books we gotta talk about, like Wolverine, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, X-Force, and also X-Factor. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.